All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the incredible story that's hiding inside 35 years of video game release data. We're going to trace the entire journey, from this, niche hobby that was all about cartridges to the global digital powerhouse that it is today. Let's get right into it.
So let's just start with a contrast that really says it all. Okay, on the left, 1992. You might have been playing a game released only in Japan on a physical cartridge that, let's be honest, you probably had to blow on to get working. Fast forward to 2024, and you're downloading a game to your PS5 released to the entire world all at the same time. The difference is just, it's staggering.
So the big question is, how in the world did we make that leap? Well, the answer is actually buried in this massive list of game releases we're using as our guide today, and it tells this fascinating story of changing tech, totally different business models, and a complete reimagining of what a video game can even be.
Okay, so let's jump in by rewinding the clock, all the way back to the beginning of our data. We're talking about an era that was completely dominated by just a handful of companies. Back then, the gaming world felt a whole lot smaller.
Looking at those early days, a super clear pattern just jumps right out at you. The platform names are the ones we all know and love: Nintendo, Sega, and the release region is almost always the same: Japan. It really was a centralized universe.
I mean, just look at these examples: Sega Master System, NES, Genesis, SNES, PlayStation. These were physical boxes, right? The things you plugged into your TV. And just notice the release region again and again: Japan, Japan, Japan. For all intents and purposes, this was the heart of the video game world.
And this chart of the market back in 1992, it just drives that point home. It was almost entirely home consoles, plus, of course, the legendary Game Boy. There wasn't any significant PC gaming scene, no mobile games, no browser games. It was a straight-up cartridge and console world.
But of course, that console-centric world wasn't going to last forever. As we started getting closer to the new millennium, a challenger emerged, and it was coming from offices and studies all around the world, threatening to basically upend everything.
And then suddenly, as you scan the data from 98 onwards, this new phrase starts popping up over and over and over again: Windows version. The personal computer wasn't just for spreadsheets anymore, it was becoming a dead serious gaming machine.
This timeline really tells a great little story on its own. You see PC-exclusive titles starting to show up in the late 90s. Then you see the volatility of this new space, right? A company like Loki, which was trying to bring games to Linux, closes down in 2002. But by the late 2000s, huge games are launching on Windows, and, this is crucial, publishers are starting to buy up digital distribution companies. The writing was on the wall.
And that right there leads to the single most important concept of this era: digital distribution. The idea that you didn't need a box, you didn't need a disc anymore, you could just download a game right to your machine. I mean, this simple idea would go on to completely reshape the entire industry.
And what's really interesting is that this shift wasn't just happening on the PC. It was everywhere. Consoles like the PlayStation 3, handhelds like the PSP and the DSi, and even really early mobile platforms were all starting to use this download-release model. The revolution was officially underway.
Which brings us to the last decade or so. This is where the world that digital distribution created just completely exploded, shattering that old centralized model into a million tiny little pieces. Okay, so here's the crucial point. The barrier to entry just disappeared. Poof, gone. You didn't need a massive publisher and a huge marketing budget to get your game into players' hands anymore. All of a sudden, your phone, your web browser, pretty much any screen you owned became a potential gaming device.
Think about it. These terms just flat out did not exist back in the 90s. Steam release, itch.io release, Google Play. These are the new digital storefronts and platforms that let tiny teams or even just one person publish their game to a global audience instantly.
This era also gave us totally radical new ways of even doing business. The whole concept of early access basically turned players into partners. You could buy and play a game that wasn't even finished yet, helping the developers fund their project and make it better with your feedback.
And this wasn't just a fad either. This model has real staying power. From indie darlings back in 2017 to major, highly anticipated releases planned for 2025, early access has become a permanent and really important part of the gaming landscape.
Now, do you remember that chart from 1992 that was pretty much all consoles? Okay, now look at this breakdown for 2019. It is a completely different world. The PC, powered by digital stores like Steam, is now the single biggest slice of the pie.
Consoles are still a huge deal, of course, but now you've got a massive mobile market and even browser-based games carving out their own space.
But here's the thing, this explosion didn't mean things got any simpler. In fact, the business became way more volatile. At the same time that small indie devs could suddenly thrive, you had massive consolidation happening at the very top, like Sony buying Bungie. And even the giants like EA weren't immune to the churn, shutting down their mobile studio Industrial Toys. It's just a wild, unpredictable ecosystem out there.
So after this incredible 35-year journey, what does all this data tell us about the road ahead? Well, it actually gives us some pretty clear clues about what's just around the corner.
The data actually gives us a little peek into the immediate future. We can already see game releases scheduled way out into 2025. And what does that tell us? It reinforces how stable the current model is, a digital-first, PC-heavy world dominated by platforms like Steam and these massive, evergreen franchises. So it seems like the next few years are going to be more about evolution, not another massive revolution.
From physical cartridges you could only buy in one country to digital games you can access from the cloud anywhere in the world, the evolution has been nothing short of breathtaking. And it really just makes you wonder, what are the key terms going to be in a list like this 35 years from now? What technologies and platforms that we can't even imagine yet are going to define the next era of play?